Hey guys, we are live. Brian, the Beast Robinson co host, is having technical difficulties. He will be here shortly. Our guest this week is Ray. He's got some very fun, interesting stories to share about his martial arts experience, including growing up in high school with Michael Jai White.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dave. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. It's finally nice to meet you after us going back and forth with the emails.
Yeah, you
Uh,
shared some really interesting stories with those emails, man. So we definitely wanted to get you on here.
yeah. So what do you want? So where do you want me to start?
Well, let's start with the whole Michael Jai White thing, and then we'll jump into just your history in the martial arts. And I know you got some interesting stuff to share with the Jeet Do world as well. But let's start with the Michael Jai White stories.
All right. All right. So back in let me see, 1980. I don't know, 1981 or 1980. I went. I went to attended Central High School over here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. As a child or as a growing up, I was bullied a lot. So I wanted to get into martial arts. So I hear about this guy named Michael White. I see him, he knows his stuff. And so I see him down the hall, and he's always like, when he's alone walking down the hallways, I will see him throwing kicks, on the door, be trying to kick as high as the door, the doorway, the door frame. And, always, kind of showing his little stuff, you know what I mean? So,
Hey, real quick, Ray. So you heard about like this guy, this kid, Michael Jai White. Like, so did he have a reputation in the school? Like, was he a popular kid or?
yeah, he was very popular. Nobody messed with him. Nobody messed with him. He was, he wasn't like real stocky back then, but he was tall. He was in good shape, and later on he put on the pounds. But he had a reputation, and they knew that. So, nobody messed with him. He went down the hallway. Nobody messed with him at all.
Hmm.
One thing I know he didn't like is bullying. So he
Oh,
would stick up
sure.
for people if or anybody that he saw that was being bullied. Um, so I had a friend, and his name is Carlos, and he tells me that he knows this Chinese guy, and he met this Chinese guy, and this Chinese guy was so awesome that he was able to do flips over the fences. And I'm like, wow, this, in my mind, I grew up watching Bruce Lee, uh, all the Chinese martial arts movies, that I could. And I try to imitate it at home. And, so I was a homemade kind of martial artist. You know what I mean? I didn't know my stuff, but I act like I did. So, I told the guy, all right, look, I don't know Mike, but I'll set up the match. I just go up to Mike and I'll say, hey, listen, Mike, there's this guy that is interested in sparring with you or whatever, or setting up a match. And he's supposed to be real good. And I think Mike liked to challenge himself. He just didn't want to go just to go. He wants a challenge.
Sure.
So I said, all right. So I go to Mike and I say, listen, Mike, there's this friend, friend, classmate of mine, and he has a friend of his that's some kind of Chinese master. So we want to set up a match. And are you interested? And he says, yeah, sure. Just like that. And I said, all right, so how do you want to do this? And he said, all right, let's meet up in YMCA. So we set up the date to go to YMCA. It was a Saturday morning, about 7 o'clock. It was real early. So we get down there, and I'm all, excited to see this match. So we go, and there's the gym. We go in the gym, and there's a bag. And also Mike walking in, and we're just standing around. And I meet him, I shake his hand. And then we were waiting for this Chinese guy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're waiting, and we're waiting, and nothing. And I'm like, I was so embarrassed. I mean, I was just turning red, and that feeling you get, you're so uncomfortable. Like, it's an awkward moment, and I'm like, I don't think he's gonna show up, Mike. So Mike was, I guess, disappointed. I could see it in his face, and he just starts to throw kicks at me.
Mm.
And I didn't know what I was doing. I guess he wanted to, release his he wanted to, make use of the moment. So he threw a couple of kicks, he knocked me down on the floor, and
Oh,
I
so
was
he
no match.
actually tried to hit you. He wouldn't
No,
just throw him in front of your face?
no, he threw a couple in my face, but I think he swept me or something like that.
Oh,
But
okay.
he was going light. He was going light. He knew that I didn't know anything, but he was just, feeling me out, and he swept me or whatever. I fell on the floor, but it was on a mat. It was all cool. It was all good, and I apologized to him, and I just shook his hand, and then we went on our way, and that was it.
Mm.
So that's that phase. Then, um, later down the line, my cousin, he's from the projects, Father Panic Village, and he tells me about the center. It's a rough neighborhood, and I'm like, yeah, all right, I don't care. I grew up on the east side, so I went with him to go to supposedly where Mike's teaching at the center.
Mhm.
So we wanted to go train the martial arts. So we go over there, and there's a group of kids, rough-looking kids, and as soon as I was trying to walk, one guy steps up to me, he steps in my way, and he didn't let me through. So here he's trying to intimidate me, bully me. He doesn't know who I am. So I don't know where Mike comes and just says, "Look, what are you doing?" And he just tells the kid to, just move out the way, let him in. And maybe I look like you know, a white kid, whatever. It was interesting. So we go in and we see all the martial artists, and we go to train. And the most awesome thing that I saw was this guy named Michael Spencer. He takes
Mhm.
a kind of like a Rambo knife, and puts it up. He tells the guy to hold it up in the ear like this, and the blade's facing the way he's gonna kick. So he puts an apple on the top of it, and then he does a flying spinning kick, and he knocks the apple off without cutting his foot. And I was like, wow. So we trained that day, and then I left. And it was a great class, but I didn't go back. I didn't go back. But
Wait, who kicked the apple off? Michael Jai White or Michael Spencer?
Michael Spencer,
Oh, he
Mike,
did that. Cool. Okay.
yeah, Michael Spencer was one of his buddy, black belt buddies. Like
Okay.
it was Mike, and he had a couple of other instructors with him. They were all trained. They were all friends.
Yeah.
But it was
So
good.
you went to that class. Why didn't you go back?
I don't know. Maybe it was a money thing, if I could recall. Of course you had to pay the fee. It wasn't much, but I, again, I was a kung fu guy.
Mm.
I wanted kung fu. It was cool, but I was a kung fu guy, so I wasn't interested really in doing karate. My thing was to do kung fu. So that's why I didn't go back.
Okay.
And you have a background in Jeet Kune Do?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a Shotokan. Actually, let's get into how I got into. So there's this guy named Phil Salanto in high school. He comes, and we were friends. I grew up with him. We went to grammar school and everything. And he sees me and he said, "Hey man, listen, why don't you come down?" My uncle came down from California. He was in Hollywood. So he said, "Why don't you come train with us?" I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm a kung fu guy. I don't want to." He kept on and on and on. So then I go, and I finally go to his class, and I go to his house, and I see his uncle's swords and everything that he brought back from California. And then I joined the class, and I fell in love with it. So I made it to a brown belt. I just didn't want to go for the black belt. I don't know why. I'm that kind of guy where I'll just go to the edge, and then I can't. I just don't do it. I just don't finish it out. So that's how I got into the karate part. And then after the karate part, down the line, I got kind of bored with the same routines, going the basics. It seemed like we were doing the basics all the time, but you know, it actually works when you do the move over and over again. It's like Bruce Lee said, you know, you can have a 1,000 moves and not be that great in them, or you can have one move that you practice 1,000 times. You know, that's more effective.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, you know, explore other things. And one day I saw KD, you know, gym. So I saw you know, you got boxing, you got the kickboxing. They show guys in the ring. They show guys doing, you know, some groundwork. And I was like, wow, that's what I want to do. So there was this guy named Rick Menente, where at the time the movie Bruce was very popular at the time, and you know, he came back. Rick Menente was a full instructor that trained under Paul Vunak and Dan Inosanto. So he had a commercial, and he used to have like weekly television classes, you know. So I sought him out, and I started training with him, and the rest is history.
Did you ever train with Paul Vunak?
Yeah, yeah. We actually brought him down from California for a seminar, and I trained with him briefly there, but not like a personal, you know, training. So I trained with the full instructor for you know, a couple years. His full instructor, Rick Menente.
So I studied with one of Vunak's students, Keith Allen. Did you ever meet him?
Yes.
You know Keith Allen?
Yeah, he's a young. Yeah, I think I don't recall his last name, but I know Keith. He's a black hair.
He had dreads. We're going back a long time, though. I'm a lot older than you.
No.
I think I'm older than you. No, I don't know. You look young, so I don't know.
Well, he went to school with Michael Jai White. You guys are probably the same age.
I'm 50.
Oh man, that's true. You look young, man. I'm jealous.
I'm 57.
Oh dang, you look like on here. I'm thinking he's like. I just realized Michael J. White's not young either, but they all look young. I look old. But yeah, that's funny. Keith Allen was back in the 80s and 90s. He did a lot in Rhode Island combative arts, they called it.
Oh no, this was around 1999.
Okay. Did you ever study with Burton Richardson?
No.
No.
Just I trained with this guy was good. Rick Menente was real good. There was 3 guys that end up going down there to California for, I don't know, a couple of years, and they trained, and or maybe it was 3 years, and then they came back to Connecticut, and they all had their own schools. So I went with Rick because he was the first guy that I saw there. But then I also met the other 2 guys, which was Roger Denton and Ron Kawakowski of Waterbury, which he fought Chuck Liddell. He fought Chuck Liddell in a ring match back in the day when Chuck Liddell was coming up, and they had a match. It's on video on YouTube somewhere. You can watch that.
Who won that match? Probably Liddell, right?
He knocked Ron out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Liddell's a beast, man.
Yeah, but it was more. You know, it was just like more open slap. He would do a lot of slaps, so he slapped them. He knocked him out. He knocked him out. But yeah, it was interesting.
Hey, isn't there more to the Michael Jai White story after you went to that class, but then you didn't go back?
Yeah, I didn't go back to the class, but I've heard you know, from my, like I said, my karate class, that he came and he stopped in our class to train. And so I asked the gentleman, you know, hey, how was the training when Mike came in? And Mike said it was a tough class. And I was like, wow, that's great. That's great. But, you know, Mike had a reputation in the streets. He would hang around with a crowd, you know. And but he was straight. He was legit. He was a tough guy. He street. Uh, he was going to all the tournaments. He was trying to get his name out, and he was just a good martial artist. He would train with anybody. I because I talked to my Shotokan friends, and they would tell me all these stories about him. And then I actually saw him in the tournament. I would see him once in a while in the tournament, and that's where I took this. It's funny that he had a JKD shirt on. See that?
Sure.
Yeah, it's funny, but yeah, he was very young at that time, but it was great. It's great to see him fight at the matches. He always won at the matches too. He was very quick on his feet. Always better than a lot of the opponents.
This connection is really bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so then like you probably lost contact with them, and then I'm assuming you probably just seen him in a movie someday, right?
Yeah. So then when it happens, a friend comes up to me and says, "Hey, listen, did you hear about Michael J. White?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Oh, he's breaking out in the B movies. That's how I started in the B movies." So I got hold of some of the B movies, and I watched a lot of the B movies, and they're okay. Low income movies. But then the big break was the Ninja Turtle movie that he first started in. And then from there he launched out. So he would come back. Even though he was getting big in Hollywood, he would always come back to Central High School and always speak, to the youth, and he always wanted to give back to the community. He really loved his community and wanted to make an impact on the youth. Even now, I think he comes back every now and then he comes back to visit them. Let them know that he didn't forget about them.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Because you hear he's got like you hear stories that he's got that reputation, that cool reputation and respected in the streets. But then other people say, no, he just made that up. But you could kind of basically confirm, no, people like respected him back then, and he stood up for bully or guys getting bullied and all that stuff.
Yeah, I can tell you from the personal experience because he did that. He did that for me. He didn't have to, and I remember in an interview him saying, one thing he hates is bullying. One thing he can't stand is bullying. But yeah, it was interesting. So I saw all the interviews with Mike White, the controversy going back and forth. And I'm like, oh, I got to say something. I got to say something because, yeah, he may, people may take him wrong, by the things he says, but he's really down to earth. He's confident in himself, and he's from my experience.
If you ever want to run across him again, just go to Alan Goldberg's Mega Action Weekend. Like we ran into him late January. He's pretty much there every year unless he's shooting a movie or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, that'd be great. Here's
a question real quick for my buddy Nick. This is I grew up with this dude, by the way.
You guys are buddies?
We were Army brats, man. And
nice.
We reconnected recently. We had dinner with him. Remember, Brian, in Philly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, great guy.
He's great guy, man. He's gonna be at the fight, supporting. March 9th, Atlantic City. I got a whole entourage walking me out. He's gonna be there. Brian's gonna be there. We got a lot of great people there. But anyway, he's got a question. He wanted to ask you, did you ever see MJW trash anybody on the streets? Like, you ever see him get in a street fight or anything?
No, I've never witnessed him do that. No, but I've heard of him. Getting into brawls. There's some got shot at. He got. I don't know if he got stabbed or stuff like that, but I don't know. But I know he got shot at, and he was in a couple of dangerous situations. But it's probably because if his friends got in it, he was there. He defended him. You know what I mean? I'm sure he matured more, and and grew, and knew he had to kind of step away from that.
Oh yeah, you'd be in prison otherwise. You gotta stay out of trouble on the streets, man. Prison or dead. Oh, here's a comment from Jankin Tribe. MJW is probably not a jerk at heart. He just seems like the guy who says what's on his mind without filter. People may take it the wrong way. That's probably why DJ Vlad has him on all the time. Like a lot of the stuff he says on there is controversial. It's funny. It's entertaining, but also he gets a lot of crap over it.
I mean, I follow Mike in his interviews and everything, but he's always like stone faced. You know what I mean? He's intimidating. Because of his. He's not. You don't see him smile very often. You know what I mean? So, but he looks. And then he has a little scar on his head. I don't know what that was from, but he's just an intimidating looking guy. If you don't know him, you know what I mean? If you don't.
What's your favorite Michael Jai White movie?
I don't know. Jeez. I forget the name of it, but the one with Kimbo Slice.
Oh, Blood and Bone.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
Yeah, people love that movie, dude. I love that movie.
Yeah, I love that movie. But he's definitely legit. He's definitely legit. I know there's a lot of controversies with him with all these other stars, but he just says what it's on his mind. He just no holds barred. He doesn't play around. Doesn't mess around.
And it's celebrities too. They all have a lot of them have big egos, We'll work with a lot of them. Me and David, they just have a lot of, confidence in themselves. And, I guess sometimes you got to be a little bit delusional to be great at, to do more than other people do. To be a main character, you almost have to believe yourself into becoming what you're aspiring to be, so.
Oh, the self-belief is huge because you're trying to achieve something that millions of other people can't do. So you have to obviously work and have the confidence, but have that slight delusion of I'm going to be the one that does it, aside from these other million people. So,
and I think that's true. With all the boxing legends I work with, they all have that. I don't know if it's a higher ego about themselves, above a lot of people. They just have this belief they are the baddest person in that room. They just have this this incredible deep belief in and how they're a bit above everybody that they're facing.
Let's get into this. I'm sure this will get this video demonetized, but half of these things get demonetized, and we're not even controversial on here live. I've noticed that, So if any of you guys want to contribute for super chats or ask questions or donate to the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. But anyway, Dan the Wolfman says, dang, no one wants to open the can of worms with my Bruce and Vunak comment. Well, Dan, throw it back up here. We'll talk about it real quick and get demonetized.
Well, I think you sometimes you have to go in there where I thought I was better than I thought I was, almost invincible. You get to that point, and then you get humbled. I remember I actually had my own JKD school. I opened it up. Nice. Yeah, I opened it up with Rick Menente, and we had it for a year. So things didn't work out between us, and I don't want to get into details, but halfway through the year, the lease was in my name. I finished out the rest of the year, but through that we brought in Paul Vunak. After that, during that, I went to Massachusetts and I trained with Joe Maffei. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's another full instructor, and I got certified through him. And then I came back to finish it off because I had to build my own name. He was the product. He really was. I was just the help or the other, one of the instructors under him, but he was a guy. So I had to hold this, school down on my own. So I had to go and keep training. And then I went to Roger Denton School, which is was here in Shelton, Connecticut, and I trained with him and a guy named Fabio that was did jujitsu. He was a jujitsu guy over there, but it was great. I mean, he was an all around great martial artist. Like his stand up was good, his ground was good. So I wanted to just be well rounded.
Oh, for sure, man. Hey, speaking of GQ, oh yeah, there's a delay. There's your internet keeps cutting in and out, man.
So, David,
what
is he? The Wolfman, I think, is talking about those letters from Bruce Lee, one of the actors. I forgot the guy's name. I think that's what he's bringing up about. You know, the guy alleged had wrote these letters to Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee wrote letters to him, and he wrote them back, and Bruce Lee was asking for more of this specific drug. I don't want to say it out here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and you know, Paul Vunak, their stories. You know, I heard the story, but their stories, I don't know. I wasn't there. You know, hard to consider and how much people can say about you behind your back. If I didn't see it, I don't know. I mean, all things are possible in this world, and you know, but that's what he's talking about there.
Is Vunak still alive?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking me. Yeah, he's still alive. He's still alive. He is intense. He's intense. Just doing
the shape though. He's definitely looks. You know, he's on the other side of life. I was watching some of his recent videos, and his health maybe isn't the best right now.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know he had issues or anything like that.
No, I don't know. I'm saying I looked at him and he don't, you know, maybe it's because he's old. You know, the last time I remember seeing him, he was, you know, fired up, training the Navy SEALs and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I heard about those stories actually from him. You know, like they would end up, you know, crazy. Like when he hung out with the Navy SEALs, they go out and they go out to the local bars, and then they end up in a lot of fights. And he ended up, I think, I don't know, he ended up getting arrested at the time, but yeah, they used to get in a lot of trouble whenever he hung out around with the Navy SEALs, and he went to the bar, and that was it. It was bras.
Yeah. Okay. Dan the Wolfman said Paul Vunak did tons of Coca-Cola that Bruce left behind and proved himself by going to bars and pool halls to start fights. Interesting way to pressure test your martial arts, I guess.
Yeah. And I even heard a crazy story about him, if you want me to share that.
About who?
About Vunak.
Oh, why not?
Yeah, because I some stories I feel uncomfortable sharing, but I'm gonna share this one.
We'll take it.
So one of the instructors, I'm not gonna name, he was out there in California, and this was around the riots when they had that big riot over in LA.
Oh, the Rodney King riot back then?
Yeah. So
okay.
So he was staying at his house, and then he tells me that at that time, Vunak just shoots out of the house. And then he comes back a while later. He's all bloody. And he just comes he opens the fridge and says, "Hey, you want a beer?" So basically he went out there just to, you know, I don't know.
Test his martial arts against rioters, basically.
Yeah, maybe just to, you know, get a free pass and show his skill, or you know, see how, you know, test his skills out.
Interesting. Speaking of GQ Do, you ever run across, or talk to, or train with Tommy Carruthers?
No, I've heard of him. I've seen him, and I was fast. Expression of Bruce Lee, you know, the basics, you know, not, you know, he reminded me of Bruce, the way he fought and everything else.
Sure.
You know, Paul Vunak was different, because I remember Paul telling me that Dan wanted him to do his own thing. So Dan's like, just go and you make your own name and do your own thing. And that's when he came out with the rat system. And actually, it's a great system, I mean, for street fighting. And I remember one training method was training your emotions. So what he would do is one of the drills is you would train, and then he would tell you to turn it up. Like, you have to turn it up, like get aggressive. Oh, and then you have to turn it off. So it's like an on and off, because if you can't control your adrenaline, that from experience, is that when, the guys in the ring, they get a high.
Yeah, that adrenaline dump, sure.
So this was of training the adrenaline and training your emotions when the heat is on, and then be able to shut it off. So I enjoyed that part. It was intense.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to what they do, I've heard, in Sistema, where because they want you to be calm and relaxed the whole time, even in that high stress situation, right? And then Krav Maga will train you to like turn it on, go from 0 to 100 immediately, because that's what the aggressor is going to be doing to you on the street. So, yeah, I'm not surprised Vunick implemented that in his system.
Makes sense. And that's what I mentioned about having that killer instinct. Is there's guys that have that killer instinct, and then there's guys that don't have it. And I think that emotional part of training it taught me to have to build and dig deep on that killer instinct. Even though I wasn't as aggressive as these guys were, but I got to a point where I was able to do that. But there's different martial artists. Some are meaner. Some are just mean. You know what I mean? I remember back in the school. Everybody. There's always this guy that want to take you out. That's one thing. They're always trying to test you. They want to take you out. You go visit other schools. You get that. That guy. Oh, I heard of you. And then he wants to kind of see if he can beat you up. It happen everywhere. You get challenges everywhere. I'm sure Bruce Lee got a bunch of challenges. Everybody gets challenges, but Mike, he wasn't afraid to train with anybody or go to any school or any art, and he just loved growing and becoming a better martial artist.
But yeah, and if anyone's curious on him and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Helicopter Scroll said he's in TMNT 2 in 1991. You could glimpse him in the scene where Kino is being initiated into the Foot Clan gang. And Jan Ken Tribe says, people trash Sistema, but I think those guys are onto something. I do too. People do trash it because some of the videos online look ridiculous.
Well, let's go. I'm going back to Paul Vunick. I went to a couple of his seminars too in New York City. I asked him about Dan, because there was a story about Dan. Rick, my partner, my ex-partner, he said, "Listen, you seriously, Paul." He says, "Can you take out the old man? He's old, right? You can take him out. You're talking about Dan and Santo. Can you take him on?"
Mm-hmm.
And Paul's like, like, no way. He goes, I'm here. Let's say you're going to measure your knowledge. Because Dan is a walking encyclopedia. He's here. Like he knows so much. He's just a source of information, and he's trained with, everybody. And he also takes notes when he trains each class, still till today, jiu-jitsu class and everything. But he said one day that there was a guy that came into this gym, and Paul was going to take him, and then Dan said, "No, let me take him." He said, "I never seen anything like it." Dan, he said, he looked almost like a demonic beast. Not saying in a bad way, but he it shocked Paul. In other words, it just shocked Paul. So Dan's on another level, whole another level.
Wow. You know, it's interesting. It's kind of similar to what I heard. So I trained with Sensei Elliot Freeman in St. Louis last year, and that's Steven Skull's top student, right? Tenshin Aikido. So I
Yeah.
got to experience that, man. And the guy is like, he's incredible with the technique, the way he can manipulate you, just move you. You know, people give Aikido a bad rap, but I'm telling you, there's some guys like Elliot Freeman will change your mind if you spend time with them. Anyway, the reason I bring that up is because he had told me that, and like, dude, everybody who trains and experiences him are like, damn, you're amazing. But he's like, dude, I am like this compared to Steven Seagal. So it's like, damn, I couldn't imagine Seagal in real life, man. Yeah. Anyway, Easy E said, love the channel, best channel on YouTube for all things martial arts movies. Thanks, man.
I also got introduced to the Gracies through to my partner too. He used to bring Hickson Gracie down. That's before he got, you know, real famous. That's when the UFC started back in the day. So he would bring him down. I never met Hickson, but I met Henzo, and he was a nice guy. You know, I trained in one of his seminars. So Philip, JKD is, for me, it's a very it's very technical. You know, I mean, if you study the Filipino martial arts, it's very technical. The the stick fighting, it's tough. It's tough. It's not something that you could learn easily. So you got to put a lot of time in. You know what I mean? And then you got
So do you still train martial arts now?
No, I haven't trained. I haven't trained in a little while. After that, I just got into running 5K races, and I just try to keep in good shape. You know.
Mm.
Also trained. So after school closed down, I started training kids and everything for an adult out of my home for about a year. So it was about 5 years with JKD that I had. But no, I've been off for a while. I'm itching to go back again. That's me. Like I told you, I'm on and off. You know, I'll go through something and I let life affect me. And in the martial arts, you know, if I'm going through something, then I would, you know, you wouldn't see me at the school for a while. And my martial arts instructor would get frustrated at me because Ray comes, he gets his belt, and he takes off, and I don't see him again. And then he comes back and he trains again. But that's just me. But
Okay, so when you get back formally into martial arts, what do you think you're going to train in? You going to go back to Jeet Kune Do school or do what?
probably jujitsu. Yeah, and definitely just jujitsu. I think fascinates me. I learned that, but I didn't get real into that. I don't have a belt in it, but I held my own on the ground. I had a natural ability. I don't know what, on the ground to defend myself, but I didn't understand a lot of the the movements, the locks, and things like that. I mean, I could get you in a guillotine. I could put you in a rear naked chokehold. Great, learning a little bit of wrestling, but I like boxing too. Boxing was a great attribute to learn. Muay Thai, I loved. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe JKD is going. Yeah, because there's no one system. No one martial arts that you're training. It's a variety of things. You know what I mean?
Is there a lot of groundwork like jujitsu implemented in Jeet Kune Do or not? Because I would almost think, since it's more street-based self-defense, it'd be kind of like Krav, where it's like you get a little bit of it just in case you're there, but that's like the key preach: do not go to the ground, do not go to the ground, get up immediately, bite the dude if you have to get up.
Yeah, there's a there's a art supposedly called I don't know what it was. It was a Filipino martial arts about biting and pinching that Paul talked about. He says when he was on the ground with a couple of the Gracies, he said he saw opportunities where he could do that, and get out of moves. So
Sure.
that's another art separate. 'Cause I remember I heard about the Dan Santos gym. Like there's nights where you have stick fighting. So it's like they had I guess they separated it, but then they also blend it together. So I would practice energy drills, push hands, Paxal, occupying the center line, keep the flow moving. Then you do a front blast, a straight blast, the groin. I mean, you get into the Muay Thai, you get into Tai Chi. It just the way Paul blended this together. It was fascinating. So you're doing this sequence, and there's like 5 different martial arts defenses that from different martial arts that you. The boxing part was great. My partner wasn't a ground guy, so everybody had a specialty. He was awesome in trapping. He was phenomenal in trapping, like Wing Chun and the trapping. That was him. The other guy was in Waterbury. He was more the weapons, and then the one in Shelton, Rick Menendez, Roger Denton. He was the ground guy, but he was the most well-rounded guy. So he practiced a lot of the boxing, stand up, and stuff like that. So,
it's interesting you were saying about the biting and pinching art. In Roman times, there was a Roman wrestler when they were very brutal in the Roman wrestling, and he was a legend for breaking fingers. So he'd break the guy's fingers because I don't know what the rules exactly were, but you could break fingers, and he was known as the best finger breaker in wrestling.
Damn.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I mean, if you're on the ground, somebody bites you, you're gonna react. You know what I mean? So that's one thing you gotta watch out for. Weapons is another thing you gotta watch out for. You'll get stuck on something. Everybody gets stuck on something. Like I'm not a technical guy. I'm just a guy that has to do the thing over and over. Or can explain things technically, but I'm just a reaction kind of guy. I just go in there and flow, and I can move and I can blend with everybody. But that's another level, or understanding, and you either have it or you don't. Some people have it, some people don't. So I remember Dan Narco. He said there's technicians, fighters, and then there's guys that just flow. They just do it, but the other guy has a little different understanding of it. So I was the other guy, not the technician. I couldn't break that down technically for you, but I can show you the move. You know what I mean? And one thing that frustrated me with back in the day in karate was you go over katas, but you don't know what all the movements, every movement means. I don't know if you ever. You do kata and you got this movement where you're up in the air, but how is that actually applied in the defense? You know what I mean?
Yeah, some of those movements are impractical in my opinion. I've never really been a kata guy, but anyway.
Yeah, I just want to know what every move means. Like I remember there's a Mike showed it. He was doing a kata. It was one of his movies, which I found fascinating. And then it showed like what that movement in the kata in a self-defense
application,
is applied. And I found that fascinating. I wish we would have gotten more into that back in the day, but the training.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. A lot of times you didn't get all the information you needed. And they used to kind of say, well, those are the secrets. We can't show you all the secrets. And when I studied karate, it was like, some of the moves were still a mystery.
Yeah. So you don't know what every move's in it. Like, okay, and another thing too that frustrates me, you see all these weapons and in tournaments, and guys look awesome and the swords and all that, but can they actually use it in combat? That's another. That's Dan. Dan, it can do that, but can you actually apply it? That's just a different. That's just me. That's my thinking.
Yeah, here's a comment from Dan the Wolfman. Funny how the MMA and grapplers can actually control another man in position, so they are the ones that can bite and eye gouge effectively. Yeah, but Dan, I think when you're gonna bite somebody, that's like when you're the one losing on the ground. So it's kind of like you're not really gonna open with that. If you're controlling the guy, there's no reason to be primal and bite him.
Good way to get hepatitis.
That's a last ditch resort if you're on the street.
Virus
bite a piece of their.
Look,
but
man,
right.
Yeah,
right. You got to do what you got to do in a fight, and fights are dictated.
I heard crazy stories with WWE fighters. Like the background, they're talking about when they go to bars. One guy, he bit the guy's nose off. The guy's ear off. It's just but just get it over with. They're just crazy like that. But that's not me. I mean, I guess if you have to do it, to survive.
Oh, dude, like if it's a street fight and like your life's on the line, then you do anything
There's
you
no
have
rules,
to, man.
yeah.
Like at that point, I wouldn't bite anybody in a bar fight, though.
And then I heard one guy took his eye out. He was going take eyes out. I'm like, this is another level of crazy.
Tyson Fury's dad went to jail for that, gouging a guy's eye out.
Yeah.
That's a street fighter right there. I mean, I think a lot of people have a delusion about, and I think to Dan's point about, what he's trying to say here about fights is, when you fight a street fighter like Tyson Fury's dad, you got to be careful how you think you're going to dictate the fight. I'm not going to go to the round. I'm not going to do. You end up in the situation you end up, and if the guy's a killer, you better figure out a way to get out of it. And you better, figure out whether you need to grapple, bite, break a finger, whatever you got to gouge their eye out, because there are guys out there, people out there that will do anything to kill you. They will kill you. And that's a whole nother reality. I think we don't always, when you're at work in a gym, in a dojo and stuff, it's a very sterile kind of way of thinking, and when you stand in a crowd, you're imagining how you could take that person out. But man, you get with one of those real ruthless, psychotic minded people, man, you better be ready for anything.
Yeah, I mean, and let's just say that the opponent in the street fight doesn't know the martial arts, but he's crazy like that. You know what I mean? Even though you have martial arts training, but you're not thinking about, oh, I'm aggressive, I'm going to get aggressive, but I'm not going to, I'm going to rip this guy's eye out, but he's looking to rip your eye out. You're not thinking that he's looking to do that, or anybody's going to do something crazy like that, but it happens.
Do you remember felony fights? Remember
no.
Way back, they're all banned now. But in one of them, the guy bit the other guy right on the face and almost took a chunk of the guy's face off. They were ruthless. Yeah. I don't know. They were way back. They were called felony fights, but you can't find them anywhere now. But they were all the rage, I think, back in the maybe late 90s or something like that.
See, well, Paul Vunak is the guy that reminds me of somebody like that. That's that's the guy you don't want to mess. I remember at the seminar, we're sitting there and he comes in and they were a little late. People were kind of upset, but I was trying to hold the crowd. And then I don't know, he asked my wife to do something, whatever. And she's like, no, I'm not, I don't know who this guy is, whatever. And I'm like, babe, cool down, because this guy, I'm not gonna freaking get into it with Paul, because he'll kill him. Paul, I'm not gonna mess with Paul. I'm not gonna mess with Paul. You know what I mean? Not that Paul's gonna do anything, but I'm just saying you don't understand who this guy is. I'm not. Let's just chill. But yeah, Paul's that. Paul's he's in another level.
Oh, for sure, man. Here's a comment from Dan. He's peace out. Get the highest rated self-defense instructional on BJJ fanatics, combatives, and street jiu-jitsu, how to cover your butt in all situations. So Dan's got good practical advice. This is something that you know, I think he made this video instructional years ago. So anybody could get that on BJJ Fanatics and Combatives on that website. Just check out Dan on Facebook. I'm sure he'll post a link every few days. Let's see. Oh, well, speaking of fighting, more cleaner, sane, civil fighting, you should come out on March 9th to my celebrity boxing match, Ray.
Oh, where's that? Where's it going to be?
It's in Net City at the Showboat. I'll send you info. Like anybody in that area, Philly, New Jersey, you know, etc., should come out to the fight. Like I'm out there promoting it. Remember, I was selling tickets at that podiatrist's office. Remember, Brian? Because I'm going out there. Because we're in the field, you know.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll go.
Oh, no, that'd be great, dude. Like, you wouldn't believe some of the people coming, man. I can't really say right now, but there's going to be a lot of big names there, man. It's going to be exciting. In the training, by the way, which I'm going to go train with Don pretty soon, training with Don Wilson and another guy named Brandon. And we're just doing nothing but sparring at that gym, man. Like, the training sessions are going great, man. The training sessions are going great.
That's good.
So I'm going to shine on March 9th.
I'm really excited for you. I'm really happy for you. You know, I send you emails because I want to support you. I know you don't really know me, but I like the underdog.
Sure.
I'm always rooting for the underdog. Like when Conor McGregor went, you know, and fought Mayweather, I was just hoping that he would knock him out. You know, because everybody was, you know, no, even Mike, I love you, Mike. But Mike was like, no, he'll never be able to touch him. You know what I mean? Michael J. White said that, and he was wrong because look what happened. He last 10 rounds.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think it's because, you know, it's awkward fighting a boxer, just like Francis and the Francis fight.
Yeah,
it's
Tyson Fury.
Somebody that's not a boxer in boxing. So they have to figure them out. You know, if they have some kind of base skill of like a UFC or some kind of fight,
sure,
it's awkward. So Mayweather, you saw him trying to figure him out in the first 2-3 rounds because it's different. The fights are coming, the punches are coming from different angles. You know, he even tried to hold them, you know, or you know, it slipped a couple of times where you almost put him in a headlock. But it's a little different. You know, I wanted to get into the boxing when I was a kid, a teenager actually, but the local boxing gym told me I was a little too old. They were taking it was called PAL. It was more for trouble use. So I was a little old for the program, but yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
I asked you, Dave, over there. Do you ever study JKD?
No, you know what's funny though. So I did interview Tommy Carruthers on the channel before, and like he's got like a manager guy that helps him set different things up, right? So a lot of people know about this fight coming up, and I tell everybody, look, I'm not going to discount the opponent. Like anything could happen, but I'm pretty damn confident I'm going to win, and I'm setting up a second fight that's going to be really big. You guys will probably be blown away by the name of the potential opponents, but that'll be late summer, early fall. But anyway, going back to JKD, Tommy Carruthers' guy he one of many guys that reach out because everybody like wants to train me now, you know, and I'm willing to get knowledge from, you know, high level people. So if I could take something from like one of the highest level JKD practitioners out there, I'll take it. Like, would I implement that 100% in the boxing? I doubt it, but there's probably something I can use, right? You know, just like I train. I mean, there's too many people. Like I get so many emails, people reaching out. A lot of people I've had on the channel before, just people seeing the journey and want to get involved in some way, you know. So I'm kind of blessed in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's take advantage of it. You might as well, you know, get as much knowledge as you can and experience and have fun doing it.
Yeah, and I want to document the whole thing. Like literally, I plan to meet up with Steven Seagal and get some stuff from him. You know, just all these like. In fact, I'm going to even do some training with Billy Blanks. Like he's actually shooting a workout video right now in Canada. But when he gets back to California, I'm going to meet up with him. And then Paco Prieta, who played Savario and Only the Strong, I'm going to do some training with him. So, and he's like one of the highest level Shotokan guys. And he even kind of created his own system as well. So that's like a, you know, we know him as like the cool guy and Only the Strong and the Tarzan looking guy and Lionheart, but that is a very legit martial artist. You know, Sheldon Leddish will even tell stories about him like he's the real guy. He's the guy that would clear up a bar in Mexico like somebody would in the movies, but he would do that in real life.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's great. So I just wanted to share my part of that. Filipino martial arts for me is very complicated. I don't know if your experience is, but it's a complicated art. It's a lot to learn. It's a very lot to learn. So it's you end up with JKD. For me, my experience is you get a little bit of everything, you know, but it's hard to get all of it because you really got to emphasize on that particular, you know, art, like a lot of time the knife, and then you know you want to get the Muay Thai. That's a different issue, different art there. If you know, I love Muay Thai. I love it because it was powerful. The kicks were powerful. The strikes were powerful. It was just a different feeling than karate. Karate was great for me too, yeah, but it was just a different flavor. It's a different feel. You know, I love the Muay Thai. And you know, the kicks are nice. They're strong, powerful. You know, the elbows. That one thing I didn't use a lot of elbows when you're in karate. You know, headbutts. You know, it was great. It was a great experience learning all that stuff. So I got a little bit of everything, but I wasn't, you know, great at just one thing. It was just a little bit of everything. Best I could, you know.
I think it's good to be exposed. It's definitely good to be exposed to all the different martial arts, you know, just like I think it's great to be exposed to all the different religions and philosophies out there, you know, and then just try to figure out what makes the most sense for you. Like for me, you know, Christianity does, but like somebody's you know, a Muslim or like a Buddhist, great, you know, but I still think they should be exposed to everything, just like in the martial arts. It's like maybe you took Muay Thai, Jeet Kune Do, Jiu-Jitsu, and then figure out like, you know, you get a taste of everything. You figure out like, try to implement, you know, little things from each art that you can to just make yourself the best martial artist you can.
Yeah, and I think what ends up the result of that is when Jeet Kune Do is what Bruce meant about expressing yourself, expressing yourself truly. And your friend, other people are just built different. Everybody's built different, so you're not going to be able to kick probably like the next guy. Like I'm never going to look like Van Damme. Van Damme is more finesse, you know, more. He has that dancing background. His kicks are, you know, elegant.
Different body types, different arm length, different strength points.
Right.
You know, and it's like Bruce Lee said, use what is useful and disregard what is useless.
Yeah. So
particularly,
let's making it work for you. So that's what for me, JKD ended up, being, it's just an expression of who you are and how you're built and what works for you, you know, and what you're capable of. I'm not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Everything you are.
That's one thing I like about the UFC and MMA because you could you could see the different body types utilizing different fighting styles to their advantage. Like Daniel Cormier, for example, former light heavyweight champion, and then John Jones. They couldn't be built more different, but they were so dominant, you know, utilizing what would work for their body type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
look at Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali. I mean, you couldn't have two radically different body types, styles. One was all natural. Tyson was built and designed to be that type of fighter, and just totally different.
Yeah. So let me break it down like this. As a boxer, okay, everybody's doing the same thing, right? Everybody's a boxer. All the boxers are boxers, but everybody's different because of their of who they are, how they're built, and their trainers. They're different trainers. So it's, everybody's not going to be. Everybody's not the same. Everybody's not. We're not robots. We're built different, and Jigo knows an expression of who you are. That's how.
And that's why I mentioned earlier, you got to be exposed to these different arts, and even within the same art, the different trainers and instructors, because then you kind of figure out what really works for you. You would never know otherwise.
Yep. And like the reason why we picked Slim Perkins to work with David later on is, he's a master, a legend in the boxing world, amongst legends, a legend, but he doesn't have a particular style. He just looks at a fighter, looks at their structure, how they move, where their power comes from, and because everybody's different, and he designs their boxing style around that. So that's one guy we're going to be working with.
Oh, that's great. What's your experience with JKD?
So I studied with, actually studying on my own. I was a huge Bruce Lee fanatic back when I was younger, back in the 70s, then 80s, trying to find the answer. Just, I didn't, well, the karate guy's going to hate me, but I was studying Goju, but I just didn't feel it was complete enough for me. I just didn't feel like I was a complete fighter, and I loved JKD. So I started studying on my own, then went in the Army. I started boxing there, studied praying mantis, Kung Fu, Taekwondo, different arts. And then I went to college, and I started studying Jeet Kune Do there. I started a club in college called the Rhode Island Combative Arts Club, run by Keith Allen, who had a Rhode Island Combative Arts studio. Anyways, I studied with him for a while. And, I guess for me, in the end, I think there's so many good things that were in Jiu-Jitsu concept, but we'd probably have to back off the trapping hands. I think we spent a lot of time trapping, and I think trapping should have been a smaller aspect. And after studying the Philly shell concept, because it's not a particular defensive position, people don't understand it, but I would totally change the way you would trap. But on distance.
How would you do it?
I would never. So if I turn this way, see my hand, I would never let my hand, let's say I would never let my hand get away from me more than this. I would never reach to trap, ever. I would stay here and here. Primarily, if I'm going to trap, I would have to get a little bit out to do it. But I would never let these hands get too far from this shoulder. Primarily, I always want to be in here inside of an egg. Like I'm in an egg, and that's what the shell means. You're inside of an egg. But if you're going to risk trapping, never get them hands far away. And if the trap isn't here, then you got no trap. You're done. Don't reach. You reach in the Philly shell concept. When you reach, you're done. It's the worst move in the world is when you bring your hands away from you. But it's the scariest thing because people panic. And that's why you'll see even Wing Chun guys who aren't experienced, and forgive me, Wing Chun guys, but you'll see them with this long arm way out here, and it's a fear. I want to stop that thing before it gets to me, but you're helping your opponent when you do that.
Right. It's like putting your arm out. It's almost like something John Jones used to do to keep this, because he had a longer reach. And
Tim hates that. Tim Witherspoon, he says, Brian, that's fear. He says that is just insecurity. You see them out there and they'll tell you, they'll pour and they say, I'm checking distance, I'm doing this. He says, no, that's fear. They don't trust their defense. Whenever you see a guy doing that, some can get away with it. But in reality, when that arm is out there, it has no value, none. And he says all that is psychological fear, and that they need to learn defense, because when you know defense, then you're going to be confident here. You're always going to be in here. These elbows are going to be close. The hands are going to be close.
So basically, you're saying is just like a boxer would. They always tell the boxer, keep your.
Well, boxers are the worst. You'll see them nowadays pouring. The hands are out here. You'll see panic blocking from boxers. We just did Usyk doing panic blocking. He would go like this. And Tim and I broke down one of his fights, and you'll even see it on the high level fighters. Well, they call it panic. You do these weird things with your hands.
Yeah. And I agree with you and all that. We spent a lot of time on trapping. That was that was another thing. Either you have it or you don't. You know what I mean? Like to get really good at it. And but yeah, you sound very technical.
Well, I'm just talking from Tim Witherspoon. I'm no seasoned fighter. You know, there's a difference between a guy like me who's just conceptual than the guy who's actually fought, you know, and those, you know, I never professed to have any type of real skill. It's just concept, and it's just me and Tim having worked together with Sifu Fernandez, a Wing Chun master, and we kind of talked a lot about that. What would make trapping, you know, more effective? And we even broke down Teofimo when because he does a lot of this, but would get him in trouble. And, you know, if you want to do that, he would have to keep these hands closer when he would get to pouring at them guys' hands, because he starts reaching, he'd get himself into trouble.
You know, it's interesting though, because like anything, you know, nothing's black and white. Like I could see where Tim's coming with that. But then like the guys I'm training with now, like they do like to kind of pot out. They do like to blind the guy and then come in and, you know, go to the side. So it's like, I think, you know, you can make something work under the right situation. So keeping your arm out like that, you could set something up good boxing where I don't necessarily think it's just you're scared and you know, like and again, like John Jones, one of the greatest fighters in the world, does that. And he's taking advantage of his reach, obviously. But, you know, could Daniel Cormier pull it off and do it? Well, I mean, he's built different. Maybe he wouldn't even be comfortable doing that, you know? So I think some people can make that style work, and other people would be like Tim, you know, very technical. What Tim does is amazing for Tim and probably a lot of other people, but not everybody necessarily.
Yeah, what you're talking about is the long guard. A lot of guys will do a long guard. Sometimes they'll have it out there. So there's different, I guess more Tim talks about it being habitual. So if you pull it off, you can play with it, but be careful you don't make it habitual. That would be how he would look at it. But that's Tim. That's his perspective.
Oh, sure.
Like you said, Dave, some people can pull it off. Bruce Lee used the hand as a distraction.
That's right. Fainted a lot.
So he have you thinking here, and then he throw the kick. So high, low, low, high. So
you know what's funny? You want to hear something interesting? There's some videos of him doing that in his movies. He would feint in his movies. They call Bruce's hidden moves, and they're fascinated watching. You see him fainting, and fainting is critical in fighting. I think it's underutilized. The feint should be utilized more, especially in boxing now. And one thing, if you stay tight and you never reach the block, you'll never get faked out by a feint. You can't be feinted. So if you keep this here and somebody feints and you reach to block, the feint will get you to do something. But if you stay in here and you're just moving around here and you see the feint, maybe you think it's a jab and you go here, right? So you're here and you go and you're here, right? You're never further away to change to another defensive position. If you see what I mean, Tim always talks about that. It's harder to feint somebody who stays tight.
Yeah, and I found that fascinating about Bruce. You know, back in the day, watching him. And my favorite all time favorite movie, Enter the Dragon. Hands down for me, Enter the Dragon. That was the best Bruce Lee.
But you got to admit, there was some great moves in Return of the Dragon. I always loved the one where he kicks the guy's hand and then kicks him in the head, and there's two little puffs of smoke because the dirt went, and that was one of the most, to me, I used to try to practice that for hours. I could never pull it off in sparring. I try to tap the guy's hand, but I mean, watching him do it, it was magic.
Well, one thing I practiced from Bruce was the quick Jun Fan jab.
Yes.
And I would practice that over and over and get faster at it and get that muscle twitch like going. And I remember when I went to Massachusetts, okay, I don't know Joe Maffei, and I go over there and I walk into the gym and I got to train for 2 days, 8 hours each day. So Saturday and Sunday. So straight 8 hours training. So I go in there and my cardio was on top. I went in there and I was ready. I was in good shape. And that's where I found that there's another level. So I go in there and the first hour training and a half, we're just going over drills and I'm like, man, these guys are going in another level. And I went to the bathroom and I just puked like an hour and a half. I puked. And then I had to go back. So, and then he brings in all the students, like after about an hour and a half of, going through this stuff. And then all of a sudden all these students come in and you got to fight them all. I don't know. I don't even know who they are. So you got all these guys that are different sizes. And I'm like, oh shoot, now I got to test, I'm putting to the test. So he had a guy that was like a ring, like a ring champion, a minor champion, whatever, in the lower leagues. But the guy had a belt. And he looked like Mike Tyson. He's going to do Mike Tyson, like, boom. He just want to knock me out, right? So my jab. And that's what I did. So here he is. This guy got the belt. And Joe Maffei's telling, hey, be careful. This guy's got a quick jab. I'm like, why are you helping this guy to against me? He's the guy with the belt. I'm just the guy to coming in here. You're telling, giving the guy the tip. So I kept the jab, bam, bam. And it just kept him at a distance and thinking. And so he never really went in for the kill, and I survived it. I survived that whole day. And I was beat up that day. I was really beat up. The groundwork, I didn't know what cauliflower ears were. So he had a guy named Leaf, I forget his name, Leaf something his name was, but he was this right-hand instructor. And I saw his ear. I'm like, what the heck's up with his ears? Like, oh, puffy, and we started, my ground again wasn't that great. But then I learned later on that it was a lot of jujitsu or ground, their ears rub and they get damaged, there's things that I didn't know at the time, but now I know. And then, so at the end of the day, I got like my gums are out, like bruised black from getting punched. My chest is killing me. I got like a dent in my freaking shin. This big guy takes me and he spins me around he grabs me. He was so big. He grabs me and he tries to slam me against the wall. And I say, oh, he's not going to slam me. So I stick my foot out, right? And it goes right through the wall. It goes into the wall. And now my foot's stuck in the wall. So then I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that happened to your wall. He said, oh, don't worry about it. That's why we don't have mirrors. And there's all patches all over the place. So I guess, they just, they go through these walls, whatever. They're just crazy. So at the end of the day, the guy's like, oh, you want to go out? What else tonight? To the bar? I'm like, no, I just want to go back to the hotel. You can just go to sleep, man. Get some ibuprofen, because I got to do this tomorrow, and I don't even know I can. Most guys don't make it all day, but I made it, and I had to show them that I was a warrior. That I had to dig deep, And so the next day I go, and I'm like, I go in, and I'm like, hope it's not another day like Saturday. I don't know if I could do this. And then he said, oh, today's just going to be technical. I'm like, great. So that was my weekend over there, and I made it.
Yeah, rough weekend.
Yeah.
This guy said, you went through the blender. Ha, 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 respect. Hey, here's a cool comment. And then I got to bounce because I got to get ready to start training again. Floating Dreams also learned so much from slowing down Bruce's fights on Enter the Dragon VHS and trying to mimic them. Yeah, man, like people have access, especially nowadays on YouTube, because they post a lot of fights, a lot of movie fights, all kinds of stuff. Just it's actually a great tool to really study it. Like one of the guys I'm training with, of course, I'm training with Don the Dragon Wilson, but another guy, heavyweight, huge guy, Brandon at the gym, great boxer, man. I'm getting a lot from him as well. And, he told me like when he was young, he would just mimic the fighters as they were fighting on TV, and that's how he started learning his boxing, just getting those movements down. And he's sending me videos from Lomachenko and all this. He's like, dude, study this footwork. This is what you need, and anyway, I got to run off to start training. I'm so excited, dude. I love getting in the ring and sparring with Don and Brandon, man. But, what do you got here?
That's me, Paul Vunak, and my son, which is now about 30 years old.
So is he still doing martial arts or what? Your son,
My
is
son?
he still doing martial arts?
No, he was
Yeah.
never doing martial arts. I wanted him to do it, but he didn't have a passion for it. So
yeah, you're like that's like
yeah,
my
you can't
son,
force
brother.
someone. They're never gonna enjoy it. They're never gonna stick with it. You know, they gotta love it.
My
was
kid
trying to
does
get him in
boxing, but his passion isn't there for. He does the boxing, but he does it with a great pains to go. He doesn't have the love for it.
All you can do is introduce them to it, man. And if they take it, great. If they don't, you can't force it, man.
That's
you know?
it. That's
I
it.
mean, like if I had a kid, I would love him to do martial arts, but I would never force it. I would introduce him to it and encourage him. But if he didn't want, if it wasn't in his blood, like it's in my blood. Like when I started in 1993, I never quit. I never stopped training. You know, and I'm so excited just now. Like if I'm a kid going to train. You know, like I've still got that same enthusiasm to learn, man, and get better.
This guy, man, 3 hours in the gym. I'm in there. I hit the bag 20 minutes. I'll lift a little bit and I'm out of there. But David, man, you're a beast. And I don't want to go. Every day's a struggle. I go.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
He loves
I got a lot of energy. People tell me it's like, you know, people tell me it's like, how do you got so much energy? You know, like, because I was out sparring for hours yesterday, then later knocking the weights out for hours. So, yeah, man, I got a lot of energy. But that's a good outlet to get it out, you know, through training.
I think it's something that you have to, you know, if you don't maintain it, you know, trying to go back, sort of say you take a little time off, you go back, you don't feel like it, you know. But if you're on it all the time, yeah, you're gonna have that fire and energy, you know. But also you gotta have that inner fire. I really appreciate you having me on this channel. I appreciate your show. I love your show, and I'm really proud of you, man, and happy for you. And I wish you kicked some butt, man, and knock that dude out. Your opponent.
Thanks, Ray. You gotta come down and watch it live March 9th.
Okay, I'm coming down,
I'll
man.
send you more info. You gotta come down, man.
And I'll see you down there. So hopefully we'll meet in person. You know? And wish you a lot of luck.
Definitely. There's gonna be a great after party. It's gonna be a fun night. So, like anybody in that area, man, I'm telling you, March 9th. We're gonna do the weigh-ins on Friday, March 8th. And then Damon Feldman, head of Celebrity Boxing, is going to show his documentary, 16-Minute Man. It's a great documentary film. And then on Saturday, it's the fights. It's a whole night of entertainment, live music, whole bunch of fights, obviously, including mine. And then an after party, man. So anybody like hang out with us, man. Brian's going to be there, obviously. You know, a lot of great people going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Great. Sounds like a plan. And I apologize if I seem a little nervous, man. It's been a while. I just pulled out my stuff and I'm sorry, man, but I hope I did all right.
You were in there. I didn't think you were nervous.
Oh, you're good, man. Thanks for sharing those stories.
You got it. And nice to meet all of you.
Thanks.
Pleasure, brother.
Yeah. Thanks, Ray.
Yep, you got it.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week, 9 o'clock Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Every Saturday, we get a new guest talking about martial arts, movies, or sometimes something random.
That's right. So tune in.
All right.